What's it like being a self-employed mechanic? That's what we're going to talk about today. Well, this is the fun part of being your own boss, guys. Something breaks, it's all on you to go find it. We're at a pick and pull. We're to make a whole video about this. Like I said, you guys, we're at the self-service junkyard, which is a great way to save money on parts. The problem is the car we're working on is a Toyota. There's like 4 Toyotas in this whole place, so not really finding any luck. I found a couple sedans, but unfortunately I'm looking for a valve cover for a Tacoma, so not the same valve cover. This is great. If you work on any of the American shit or European shit, you're bound to find it in here.
I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you.
Hey guys, what's going on? We're back at you for another video. In today's video, what I want to talk about is, should you be a self-employed mechanic? What are the pros and the cons to being self-employed? And we got a lot of good examples in this video. So today we only had a couple cars to work on, the Camry behind me being one of them. And then if you can see across the street over there, that little black Kia, we put a clutch slave cylinder in that, bled it, test drove it, made sure everything was good because the pedal was going to the floor. So let's get into this video. All right, guys, so as you know, this is my home garage slash my shop now. I was a technician at the Toyota dealership. I was at the dealer for a total of 7 years, 5 of those years being a mainline technician, 2 years while I was in tech school. And while I wouldn't trade the experience for anything really, because that's where I developed my skills, got comfortable working on cars, not that you're ever completely comfortable with everything, but I got a really good base knowledge set. I got my ASCs through there. I got various Toyota certifications. I got a lot of experience, but being in a big corporate setting was not my thing, and it's always been a dream of mine to be on my own. So now you can see this is our working space, and I just wrapped up 2 cars for the day. Yesterday I was working on that truck you saw the time lapse on. We did upper and lower intake manifold and valve cover gaskets on that, which we're going to get into, but now I got to go ahead and put all my tools away once we're done making this video. So what are some of the pros of being a self-employed mechanic? Well, one, there's no middleman. If you're at a dealership, if you're in a dealership setting, you're essentially the middleman for the business, and the people who are taking all the risks, the people that are paying the overhead, you know, the owners of the dealership, they're going to make the majority of the money. I did the math out, and for a typical job, and we're talking flat rate pay here, so I go off the book hours, and then if it takes me 3 hours, it's a 6-hour job, I get paid 6 hours. If it's a 6-hour job and it takes me 9 hours, I get paid 6 hours. But of the shop rate and then what my hourly take-home wage was, I was making about 15% of the money. When you're working on your own, you get 100% of the money, but you being your sole boss means that you are in charge of absolutely everything. So like I said, one of the pluses to being your own boss is you're gonna make a lot more money. What I mean by that is the cost that you charge the customer, the rate that you charge the customer, you get to take that home. So if it's $70, $80 an hour, that's money that you're gonna put in your pocket. Now, you have to account for overhead, stuff like that. Obviously, I'm working out of my home garage right now, which is a pretty good setup. We got the Max Jacks lift, I got adequate heat, it's insulated, but it is a little frustrating, especially right now. We're only on our 3rd week of being self-employed, and I don't have everything exactly mapped out how I want it to be yet. So you know, it works. It works for now. And it's not part of my plan long term to stay in my garage and only have one lift. Ideally, eventually, I would like to get into a shop. This was just a very low risk way to go about working for myself. It's convenient because I'm at home, so I just come out to the garage to work. That being said, you also have to be able to balance home and work, right? So even the days where I don't have a job lined up right away, I wake up at 7 a.m. still just to kind of stay in a groove. And if I don't have a car, I'll come out here and organize, see how I can maximize my space, stuff like that. But if we get back to that truck, so I was working on that truck you saw in the time lapse, and the tube seals in the valve cover on the passenger side of the vehicle, and well, both actually, but they were so corroded and stuck. They were the original ones from 2000. They got so rock hard I couldn't pry them out. It's aluminum valve cover, so I wanted to be careful with the pickup, right? So I just lightly heated the whole thing with my torch, and then they popped out real nice. Put the new gasket in, put it back on the motor, had a 3/8 ratchet, and I was going by hand, and it cracked the valve cover. Well, when you're running your own business, you are the boss, so you're responsible for anything. When I was working at Toyota, if you broke something, you know, if you did it all the time, it was an issue. But if something, you know, stuff happens. Every once in a while, shit happens and stuff breaks. If you go to parts, you order it, charge it to the shop, right? You don't have to pay for it. Customer don't have to pay for it. It's all good. That is not the case when you're working on your own. And I'm in a small town about 30 miles from the metro. So I called to check on a replacement. It was $380 for that valve cover. So then I went to a pull apart junkyard, which you saw in that clip, and I searched all over the place without any luck. Didn't find it. So then what I did is I called the customer and I said, you know what? This is what happened. If you want a brand new one, I will order one and I will cover that for you. Or I can TIG weld this hairline crack in your valve cover, and then I'll drive it around for a while, make sure it doesn't leak. And thankfully for me, he was okay with that, and I just wrote on the receipt. I was like, you know, if you have any issues with this, let me know and we'll replace it. But that's what I mean is not only do I potentially have to replace that part, but I wasted half a day trying to find a valve cover, track one down. I was in the pull apart yard a half an hour from my shop trying to figure out how I could fix this. You know, I was trying to look for a quality used part. And all of that's gonna fall on you when you're your own boss. The second thing is if you're like me, you're working completely by yourself, which I always wanted to be self-employed. You know, it gives you a sense of freedom really because you don't have anyone to answer to. So either you're gonna be a slough and you're gonna fail, or you're gonna work and you're gonna be successful. Everyone needs a good, honest mechanic. So that part of it's been nice. That being said, I'm completely by myself. So I'm my own parts runner. I'm my own bookkeeper. I'm the mechanic. I have to do all of it myself. When I was working at the dealer, we had a cleaning crew that would come by and clean the floors that night. You had your parts runners, all that stuff. Not the case now. If I need a part, I gotta call the parts guy. I have to drive to the parts store and pick it up. The way I'm running my business to avoid a lot of paperwork is I'm just paying the sales tax and the retail price on all of my parts, and then I just transfer that cost to the customer, so I don't have to worry about charging sales tax or the markup and all of that stuff. But that's another con, is I have to take money out of my pocket to buy the parts and then get reimbursed once I see the customer. So, you know, I get the money back always. There's just always that variable that you have to have money around to be able to invest into some of these projects that you're working on to turn a profit, right? The other thing I would say that's not ideal is you're by yourself, you get really, really crafty with ratchet straps, with pry bars, stuff like that, because I can't tell you how many times when I worked at Toyota in the dealer, I'd be like, hey, can you come give me a hand really quick? You can't do that. And not only physically, like moving a part, adjusting something, hell, when I bled that clutch pedal on that Kia across the street, I had to use a pry bar, go up from under the lift, push on the pedal, jam it into place with my pry bar, then go back under and bleed it. Whereas if you're working at a dealership or a shop, you can just have one of your coworkers hop in and help you bleed the thing, right? So that is an inconvenience, as well as not being able to have someone to bounce ideas off of. You know, we have the internet, we have smartphones, we have all that good stuff, but it's not as simple as being like, I really want a second opinion on this, and calling over your buddy or your stallmate to come and take a peek at it. It's not something you're able to do. All right, guys, and one more thing I want to mention about being self-employed, and this is kind of a flaw in the system that I figured out, is you're going to get a lot of people that go to a dealership and they don't want to spend $150 per labor hour to fix their car. So they're going to come to a small independent guy, being me, being you, whatever, and they're going to already have the thing diagnosed. So this happened to me this week. I had a customer come in, they wanted some leaks sealed up, and you could clearly see the coolant leak, clearly see the oil leak, and the check engine light was on. Well, I didn't even worry about it. It was an older vehicle. I thought maybe it was an O2 sensor or something like that. They didn't mention anything about it. They just said, hey, I got quoted to fix this coolant leak and this oil leak at a dealership. Can you do it? And I said, sure. I had the battery disconnected while I was doing the repairs in the engine bay, and obviously then when I connected the battery again, check engine light was off. So the customer came to pick up their car. I showed them what I did. They were happy with it. We went for a drive, and then they took off. Well, when they got home, they called me and said, hey, everything's great, but would you be able to check? The check engine light came back on. And I was kind of like, well, I didn't know that that was a concern because you had these visual leaks that you wanted fixed and you didn't mention it. So I thought maybe O2 sensor or something like that. It was an old vehicle. I assumed, which you should never do, that they already knew about it and it wasn't an issue. They were under the impression that fixing these leaks would turn off the check engine light. So now, you know, they were really friendly about it and I agreed to look at it again, but it was just a lack of communication. I didn't think that they would ever worry about that. Whereas if you're at a dealer, your service writer is probably going to figure out that information from the customer before you get the RO and get the paperwork. So you also have to be pretty good at communicating, and you're going to learn every single day when you're self-employed. I'm learning that really, really quick. So you guys, I just wanted to bring you this video to give you a couple of the pros and cons to being a self-employed mechanic. So far, obviously, we're really early in our journey, but I'm enjoying every single minute of it. So you guys, thanks for watching this video. Drop a like down below and subscribe if you have not already. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.